Han Li survives a full heavenly blood lightning strike from a high-tier demon, then becomes the target of an even stronger hidden master who wants to capture him alive. If I stop uploading here, you can find me via my website in the description below. Staring at the recognizable demon, Han Li felt greatly surprised and apprehensive. This wasn't the first time he had seen this demon. He had killed a metamorphosed venomous flood dragon back in the mortal world's scattered star seas, and it looked exactly the same as this demon. However, this blood worm wasn't a grade 8 demon beast, but a fearsome existence at the high spatial tempering stage. After exchanging an attack, he knew that the demon's abilities were extremely fearsome. He was no ordinary spatial tempering stage being. Han Li's thoughts quickly churned, pondering if he could deal with the opponent before him. The bloodworm glanced at Han Li and solemnly said, "It is truly odd for a spirit general to be capable of injuring me. It is no wonder my master had given me a warning." Your master. Han Li felt his heart tremble. Behind this fearsome high spatial tempering grade demon was a greater demon at body integration stage. How could such an existence in the earth abyss set their eyes on him? This was the first time he's arrived here. Bewildered, Han Li's expression sank. The bloodworm wore an odd expression and mysteriously smiled. "If you can block my next strike, I will immediately turn around and spare you for the time being." Afterwards, the demon cared no for Han Li's amazed expression. He formed an incantation gesture, and crimson light flashed from his body as a large blood mist spread in every direction. The blood mist that earlier dispersed has returned roiling as it concealed the crimson worm's body. With a strange incantation, the large blood mist began to form a huge blood cloud in the sky. The cloud loudly roared with thunder and blinked with crimson light. What ability is this? Han Li's heart was greatly shaken. Although the cloud's lightning had yet to drop, it gave him a feeling of dread. Without another thought, he slapped the back of his head and released a large mist of grey light above him. Following that, azure light flashed from the top of his head, summoning the heaven-void cauldron. It released countless twinkling azure threads and formed a net below the grey screen. Even so, Han Li still didn't feel safe. He spun his body to release 72 flying swords. They formed a sword screen as they rushed in circles around him. As for his gold-silver lightning robes, they turned into layers of gold-silver talisman characters in front of him. Black mist also surged, and he summoned his baleful armor. In an instant, Han Li erected 5 layers of impenetrable defense. Han Li then raised his arms, and the black figure on his hand blurred, releasing a small foot-tall mountain. He flicked the fingers of his other hand to release 5 pulsing white skulls, each with a different colored flaming wandering around it. When the bloodworm saw this, he felt his heart jump and he hesitated briefly. He quickly circulated the blood essence in his body and pointed at the blood cloud in the sky. The cloud flashed blindingly. 9 flaring bolts of blood lightning fiercely cleaved down from the sky, striking at Han Li in 3 waves, each wave striking down with even greater lightning. Thunder rang thrice. The first wave struck down on the grey light mist with 2 bolts of lightning. Even the might of the divine essence fused was scattered away by the 2 bolts of blood lightning. The second wave struck down with 3 bolts. In an explosive flash, the azure net was easily dissolved and struck down on the sword screen. The 72 bamboo cloud-swarm swords seemed to form an imaginary defense. The blood lightning directly struck through it and attacked the talisman characters formed from the lightning robes. World-shaking thunder clapped, and the talisman characters turned into lightning balls, blocking the blood lightning. The 3 lightning bolts were like snakes attempting to spread down, but the gold-silver lightning furiously exploded in an astonishing display of power, unresigned to defeat. But it was clear the blood lightning was more powerful. The blood lightning wildly flashed, scattering the silver-white lightning. The thinned 3 bolts of blood lightning continued to strike down on Han Li's baleful armor and released 2 muffled explosions. Han Li effortfully released protections were destroyed in an instant. At that moment, the last wave of the thickest 4 lightning bolts was about to strike. Han Li's expression sank. Without making any other movements, he released a bright golden light from his body. A three-headed, six-armed projection appeared. It moved, and six sparkling golden arms directly reached up to the four blood bolts. Although the Provenance True Devil projection was hollow, it possessed might beyond imagination. Its six arms stirred and turned into balls of blurred golden lightning. Four crimson bolts of lightning flashed directly, striking at the golden lightning. The two sides struck and silence followed. Two flashes of blood lightning flashed, and the six balls of golden light were no more. Two unobstructed bolts of blood lightning directly struck the top of Han Li's head. Han Li's figure blurred, and he clenched his hands together. Then he reached for the sky with his bare hands and met the two bolts of lightning with his fists. His black-white fists suddenly expanded several times in size before the lightning struck them. A grey mist and a roaming rainbow flame both spiraled around the fists and seemed to compress the nearby air. Two explosions roared. Brilliant light radiated, and Han Li's sleeves turned to ash, revealing the sparkling golden scales on his skin. His fist projections and the lightning erupted, turning into grey ash. Han Li tumbled back and began to fall before he held himself up and regained his bearings. He raised his head and looked to the bloodworm in the distance. Han Li's cold eyes seemed to express he suffered no injuries. The bloodworm felt his blood run cold, and he couldn't conceal his surprise. At that moment, the blood cloud flashed several more times before it faded away, exhausted of its power. Although the bloodworm was beyond astonished, he was unresigned and sullenly said, "You were actually able to receive my 12th-fold heavenly blood lightning. However, that wasn't my true cultivation art. And once I cultivate this to a deeper level, I'll be able to unleash 4 waves of blood lightning. Nevertheless, you won't be receiving any more." When Han Li heard this, blue light flickered from his eyes and his body blurred before he vanished. In that next moment, a gale blew above the blood mist, following Han Li's bizarre appearance. He violently struck down with tens of swordlight. As the swordlight weaved through the air, the nearby space droned as white streaks were left in their wake. In the blink of an eye, the blood mist was submerged by the swordlight. With the stir of so much sword, Qi, the vague figure, instantly sliced into countless pieces. But when the blood mist faded away, nothing was left, let alone the corpse of the bloodworm. Han Li was stunned. Before he looked around, the wild laughter of the bloodworm sounded 300 meters away. "Since you've received my heavenly blood lightning, I won't take the risk of further battling with you. Once I report this back to my master, they will certainly be interested in you. I believe we'll see each other soon." Han Li quickly turned around and only heard the sound of fluctuating space and a faint blood-red flicker. Then light flashed, and the blood-red streak flashed through the sky. Using some strange movement technique, the bloodworm was able to travel over 300 meters in only a few blurs with seemingly normal movements. In a few flickers, he was at the horizon, and with another, he was gone. This speed exceeded even the full abilities of his thunderstorm sings. A flicker of astonishment appeared on Han Li's face, but he remained still in the air. A short moment later, he raised his hands and brought them in front of him. His crystalline white hands was now faintly black and scorched. He looked at them in silence. The bloodworm had to be the top subordinate of a body integration stage demon. If he truly fought to the death against the bloodworm, his chances of victory was no greater than 70%, even if he used his gold-devouring beetles. The heavenly blood lightning was truly terrible. Furthermore, his treasures weren't able to block it. His bamboo cloud-swarm swords were particularly useless against it. From the worm's words, this ability wasn't even fully cultivated. This caused Han Li's heart to stir. However, what caused Han Li the most unease was the master that the bloodworm mentioned. Needless to ask, he definitely wouldn't be a match against them. Although Han Li felt greatly doubtful about how he provoked such a fearsome enemy, he didn't have the time to ponder over the matter and could only return as quickly as he could. So long as he returned to where the Flying Spirit Tribe elders were, this great enemy wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Han Li finished his thoughts after a moment of time. He then turned his head and saw that the three were still battling the giant octopus-like demon. With a cold glint in his eye, he sent a golden streak downward. When Lei Lan and the others saw the first streak, countless others began to rain down. This originally fearsome octopus, along with its dozen tentacles, were instantly turned into countless pieces, scattering blood in every direction. The golden light faded, and Han Li appeared above the demon's shredded corpse. He glanced at the three and coldly said, "You have the time of 13 breaths before I return. Hurry, collect the infernal flame fruits. I won't wait for any of you." Han Li spoke without any emotion in his voice. Chapter 1, 1461 Escape. Upon hearing Han Li's cold words, Lei Lan and the others could naturally see that Han Li wasn't kidding. As such, they didn't dare to delay as they hurried over to the infernal flame fruit trees, pulling out wooden boxes within which they could store the fruits. Qin Xiu even took an extra fruit and handed the wooden box to Han Li with both hands. Han Li accepted the box without any hesitation, sweeping a sleeve through the air, and the box disappeared amid a flash of azure light. At this moment, Lei Lan and Bai Bi had also collected their infernal flame fruits and gathered nearby. "Let's go. Don't pause or delay for anything. We have to get back to the surface as quickly as possible," Han Li said in a grave voice before flying away as a streak of azure light without providing any additional explanations. Bai Bi and the others didn't know why he was suddenly in such a hurry to leave the earth abyss, but they could guess that this most likely had something to do with the blood worm. Even the unfathomably powerful Han Li was in such an urgent state. The other three were feeling even more uneasy. Thus, Lei Lan and the others immediately set off in close pursuit. The four of them disappeared into the distance in the blink of an eye. 2 days later, the giant golden flower still stood within that wooden hall on the 3rd level of the earth abyss. The black shadow woman down below was stroking her chin, seemingly in deep thought. At this moment, there was no one else in the hall aside from a pair of green-robed female servants. All of a sudden, a streak of crimson light shot forth from outside the doors, following which the crimson light faded to reveal a crimson demon beast half knelt within the hall. It was none other than the blood worm that had just faced Han Li in battle. "I pay my respects to my mistress," the blood worm said in a respectful manner. The woman turned an indifferent gaze toward the blood worm and asked, "How did it go? Were you able to kill those people and take their souls?" "My mistress, I was too useless and was unable to kill those people," Xue Du replied as it lowered its worm head even further. "Oh, so that means those people really are quite out of the ordinary." Not only was the woman not enraged, she was quite intrigued. "Yes, my mistress. The others were quite ordinary, in that they were only normal spirit generals. But one of them was able to take the full power of my heavenly blood lightning head-on as a mere late spirit general, as well as an attack from my blood river infernal spike with his physical body alone, yet remain completely unscathed. You told me to return immediately if I encountered any mishaps, so I returned after Mei failed attacks." Xue Du recounted. "He was able to withstand your heavenly blood lightning and blood river infernal spike." The Black Shadow was already aware that she would be hearing some interesting news, but Xue Du's words still came as a surprise to her. The blood worm paused momentarily before replying, "That's right, not only that, but that man's movement techniques and other abilities are also quite extraordinary. Even if I were to engage in battle with him and fight with all my power, I would still most likely have been defeated. There are countless abilities in this world, so it's not too much of a surprise that he was able to withstand your heavenly blood lightning. However, being able to repel your blood river infernal spike with just his physical body alone, as a late spirit general, really does suggest that he's quite an extraordinary being. It means that his physical body is extremely powerful, and he would be the ideal blood sacrifice. Very good. We should have prepared 3 premium blood sacrifices, yet I've only found 1, and I was just fretting over this matter." A hint of elation had crept into the woman's voice. "What do we do next, mistress?" "I'll go in person and capture that man alive, then use him to conduct the final sacrificial ceremony." The woman's voice suddenly turned quite sinister. "But mistress isn't Master Di Jue after this man," the blood worm reminded. Ju Xue clearly wants to kill these flying spirit beings for their yin souls and use them for some kind of exchange. I only want this man's physical body, so there's no conflict of interest here. Why should I be concerned? The woman said in a cold voice, and her guess was spot on. Your wisdom is unmatched, mistress. The bloodworm was enlightened by her words. We shouldn't delay any further. Di Xue teleport to the second level with me, and let's hunt this man down together, the woman instructed. Yes, mistress. The bloodworm immediately rose to his feet. The black shadow on the giant golden flower flashed. The woman appeared beside the bloodworm in a wraith-like manner. She made a hand seal and began to chant something, upon which inky black light poured forth from her body, sweeping up the two of them in the blink of an eye. Following a quick flash, the two of them disappeared amid the black light. On the other end, Han Li and the others were flying with all their might, covering a distance that would have taken several days otherwise in just a single day. However, they were still racing along. Thankfully, all of the dangerous demon beasts along the way had already been exterminated by them, and they were quite familiar with this route, having traveled it once already, so there was no need for them to stop for anything. Even so, Bai Bi, Qin Xiao, and Lei Lan had expended a lot of spiritual power during such high-intensity flight, and they were struggling to maintain this pace. However, they didn't dare to complain in the slightest, as the sight of the grim expression on Han Li's face, so they could only grit their teeth and continue onward. A day later, a swamp appeared up ahead, and the second-level exit was revealed to them. Han Li heaved a faint sigh of relief upon seeing this, before immediately leading the group into the exit without any hesitation. Half a day later, Han Li and the others reappeared in the valley on the first level of the Earth Abyss. At this moment, Han Li suddenly made a decision that had the others completely dumbstruck. As soon as they exited the valley, Han Li suddenly said in a cold voice, "We'll split up from now on. Separate yourselves from me, and we'll fly back the surface as quickly as we can along different routes." What? Why, Brother Han? Bai Bi and the others were all stunned to hear this. With the situation as it currently is, I won't keep you three in the dark any longer. We may have caught the interest of a demon monarch-level existence in this Earth Abyss. Even with my abilities, there's no way I can oppose such a fearsome being. I don't when they'll be able to catch up to us, but if we split up, there's a very good chance that they'll come after me, which means there will be a greater chance for you three to escape to the surface. On top of that, without having to take the three of you with me, I'll be able to flee without any inhibitions. There should be very few things on this first level that can pose a threat to you, so you should be safe here. Han Li explained. How could a demon monarch-level being have developed an interest in us? Are you sure you haven't misjudged the situation, Brother Han? Qin Xiao immediately turned deathly pale. I don't know the reason behind this, but that's all I have to say. Your lives belong to you, and you can choose whether you believe me or not. However, I suggest that it's best for us to split up. Perhaps our pursuers will catch up to us soon, Han Li said in a brisk tone. Lei Lan and the others glanced at one another upon hearing this. It was just as Han Li had said. Their lives belonged to them. Regardless of whether Han Li had misjudged or not, they could only regard this to be true. Furthermore, Han Li's judgment had been faultless throughout their journey, so there was a good chance that he was correct on this occasion as well. As such, Lei Lan and the others could only follow his advice and fly toward another direction after Han Li flew off and left them behind. As long as they could return to the surface, they would most likely be safe. A streak of azure light sped through a set of barren plains in a frenzy, moving as fast as lightning. It traveled from one end of the sky to the other after just a few flashes, and it was racing along in a completely soundless manner. Many demon beasts and demonic insects down below had noticed the streak of azure light in the sky, but they were nowhere near fast enough to catch up to it, so they could only look on as it disappeared into the distance. Han Li was flying as quickly as he could while holding a pair of top-grade spirit stones to replenish his energy. Back when he was traveling to the spirit realm through the spatial node, he had used up all of his myriad-year spirit milk. As such, he had no choice but to use top-grade spirit stones instead. They were indeed extremely valuable, but in this dire situation, he certainly couldn't be stingy with them. Han Li's decision to split up with the other three was a forced one. He had told Lei Lan and the others most of the truth, but he had hidden one thing from them. He had a feeling that those demons from earlier seemed to be targeting him, and didn't pay much heed to Lei Lan and the others. In this situation, splitting up with them would make the rest of their journey to the surface a lot safer. He had protected the two Tianpeng race holy disciples throughout this trial, helped them secure infernal flame fruits, and also led them safely back to the first level. He had done everything in his power, so the rest was up to those holy disciples themselves. He had to worry about his own safety now. Up to this point, he hadn't noticed anything amiss nearby, and he wasn't too far away from the entrance that led up the surface. But Han Li didn't dare to get complacent, even in the slightest. Not only did he not slow down, he instead expelled a mouthful of blood essence and unleashed a secret technique to accelerate even further. If he could expend some energy to avoid a body integration stage demon monarch, then that would most definitely be a wise decision. However, after flying for over half a day, Han Li's expression suddenly changed drastically as he abruptly turned around to look behind him. A streak of black light had appeared in the distant sky, and it was speeding straight toward him. Furthermore, it seemed to be closing in rapidly. A dark expression appeared on Han Li's face, and he immediately flapped his thunderstorm wings, appearing over 1,000 feet away in the blink of an eye. He didn't have any means through which he could conceal himself, so he could only unleash the full power of this thunderstorm wings. A faint cry of surprise sounded from within the black light, and Han Li felt as if it had been uttered right beside him. His heart sank as he flapped his wings vigorously, launching himself through the air at an astonishing pace, as if he were trying to puncture space itself. Chapter 1. 1462. Plot. That's him up ahead, right? He really does have some skill. However, if he can escape from me, then that would be a massive joke, a female voice sounded. The ones within the streak of black light were none other than the Black Shadow Woman and Shui Du. They had managed to somehow track Han Li with unerring accuracy all the way to the first level. The woman chuckled coldly as she made a hand seal, and the black light around them immediately swirled before manifesting a black formation of light. Light surged through the formation, and the woman and Shui Du's bodies blurred slightly before vanishing. An incredible scene then ensued. Just as Han Li was racing through the air, spatial fluctuations suddenly erupted up ahead, following which a massive black spell formation surfaced out of thin air. Han Li's heart jolted with shock, and he wanted to stop, but it was already too late. Unleashing the full power of his thunderstorm wings naturally allowed him to fly at an extraordinary speed, but what he gained in speed was compromised by a lack of control. As such, he plunged headfirst into the black formation, having been unable to arrest his own momentum. Han Li felt his world go dark, following which streaks of black light and gusts of yin winds swept forth from all directions, as if he'd entered through the gates of an infernal hell. Han Li immediately unleashed countless arcs of golden lightning without any hesitation amid a string of loud thunderclaps. All of the black light and yin winds immediately exploded into nothingness as soon as they came into contact with this golden lightning, as if they'd met the bane of their existence. Divine Devil Bane Lightning. You possess lightning of this caliber. The woman's surprised voice sounded from all around Han Li, following which the black light in the surrounding area began to swirl, and it was only picking up speed in its rotation. Han Li's heart jolted with shock as all of the golden arcs of lightning around his body formed a golden lightning garment that settled over his body. However, right at this moment, a woman's giggling voice sounded. There's no need to be alarmed, fellow Taoist. I bear no ill will toward you. I only wanted to invite you as a guest to my humble abode. Han Li naturally wasn't going to be fooled by this as he flapped his wings to try and escape. However, the woman seemed to have predicted his actions in advance, and she suddenly thrust a palm toward him from afar. A burst of enormous power crashed into Han Li, and such was its power that even with his current body, he was still unable to force his way through it. Han Li's heart immediately sank. During this split-second delay, black light flashed within the massive formation, and all three of them disappeared at once. Han Li was struck by a rush of dizziness, and he immediately activated his great development technique to regain his clarity of mind. Only then did he discover that he'd been teleported to a tall platform that resembled a sacrificial altar. At this moment, he was standing atop a teleportation formation. The woman and the bloodworm were standing not too far away from him, and it was as if they hadn't even moved a single step since the beginning. Judging from the dense aura of darkness in the surrounding air, this was most likely a level of the Earth abyss that was deeper than the second level. What was even more concerning to him was that there were 7 or 8 demons of different forms standing near the platform. All of them were half-humanoid, half-demonic creatures, and they were at the nascent soul and deity transformation stages. Looking at the buildings around the tall platform, he had clearly been teleported into the nest of some kind of demon beast. In this perilous situation, Han Li didn't dare to engage in any reckless actions, and merely appraised the woman in silence. This was most likely the mistress that the bloodworm had been referring to. Otherwise, how could she possibly possess such extraordinary abilities to be able to abduct him to this place with such ease? "Come and have a chat with me in the hall first, fellow Taoist," the Black Shadow woman invited with a smile before flying toward the cluster of buildings in the distance. Xuedu glanced at Han Li with a rather peculiar look on its face before also following the woman away. He didn't seem to be concerned in the slightest that Han Li would try to escape again. Han Li looked around at the cluster of buildings, then up at the sky, and a wry smile appeared on his face. The entire sky was filled with dense grey clouds, and there was a burst of indescribable spiritual power radiating from the sky along with flashes of black lightning. A powerful restriction had clearly been set up here, and it was definitely not one that he'd be able to escape from in a short time. However, judging from the woman's words and actions, she didn't seem intent on killing him right away. As such, it was best to listen to what she had to say first, then see if there were any opportunities he could take advantage of. With that in mind, Han Li was feeling slightly more assured as he followed the woman and Xuedu as a streak of azure light. Han Li was led to the largest of the cluster of buildings by the woman and the bloodworm. He glanced at the demon beasts standing guard on either side of the wooden hall and a peculiar look on his face. All of these demon beasts were short ape-like creatures, each sitting atop a black giant spirit flower with their roots planted deep into the soil outside the doors of the wooden hall. A contemplative look appeared on Han Li's face, and he felt as if he'd discovered why this woman was targeting him. Without any further delay, Han Li strode into the hall under the menacing eyes of the apes outside. The entire hall was completely empty, aside from the Black Shadow woman and the bloodworm. There were 2 rows of wooden chairs lined up on either side of the hall, and the woman had already made her way over to a massive golden flower at the center of the hall. She then sat down with her legs crossed, while the bloodworm stood beside her in an obedient manner. The woman gestured for Han Li to take a seat on one of the nearby wooden chairs before clapping her hands as she instructed, "Bring some tea for our guest." Moments later, a green-robed female servant with a set of fine and delicate facial features appeared within the hall, carrying a wooden platter upon which was placed 2 white teacups. The servant handed 1 cup to Han Li and the other to the woman, neglecting to prepare one for the bloodworm. However, Xuedu's expression remained unchanged, as if he were already accustomed to such treatment. Han Li looked at the tea in the cup and his lips twitched. Within the pristine white teacup was a tiny pool of inky black liquid that was emanating a rank odor. Even just catching a whiff of this tea was making his expression change slightly, let alone drinking it. He was able to instantly identify that there were several tens of types of lethal poison in this tea, and he had only been able to identify a small portion of its constituents. Even with the poisons that he'd identified, those would definitely be sufficient to kill a normal person the spot. Han Li was indeed quite confident in his physical body, but he certainly wasn't going to go around drinking poison for no good reason. The woman wore a faint smile on her face, and she seemed to have identified Han Li's reluctance. "Rest assured, fellow Taoist," I brewed this tea using 81 different types of lethal poison, yet all of them cancel each other out to create a completely harmless drink. On top of that, frequent consumption of this beverage is beneficial to one's spiritual sense. She then took a sip of this tea to set an example, and he hesitated momentarily before also taking a small sip. With the woman's abilities, there was no need for her to try and kill him using poisoned tea, as other more direct methods would suffice. As such, decided to go along with whatever she had planned. Furthermore, it appeared that she wasn't lying about this. The putrid-smelling tea was extremely bitter, but after sliding down his throat, it transformed into a ball of heat that spread through his entire body via his meridians. At the same time, a cool sensation rushed into his mind, making him instantly feel more sharp and alert. He quickly inspected his body with his spiritual sense and was greatly relieved to find that he hadn't been poisoned. "Thank you for your hospitality, Senior, but may I ask why you've brought me here? This is my first time here in this earth abyss, and surely I haven't done anything to offend you," Han Li said in a grim voice as he placed the teacup onto the table beside him. The Black Shadow woman appraised Han Li carefully for a while, and only after Han Li was starting to get chills running down his spine did she reply in an unhurried voice. "I've invited you here because I have something important to discuss with you, but there's no hurry in that. You can stay here for a few days first, and I'll reveal everything to you after that. By the way, may I ask your name?" "My name is Mu Qing." After a brief hesitation, Han Li decided to tell the truth. Junior Han Li pays his respects to Senior Mu Qing. There was no point in lying about something like this, and if his lie were to be exposed, it would surely leave a bad taste in Mu Qing's mouth. So it's fellow Taoist Han. Buyer, take fellow Taoist Han to rest in the guest pavilion for now. Make sure to satisfy every single one of his needs. Mu Qing's voice suddenly turned quite cold as she delivered an instruction to the female servant in the hall. The green-robed woman faltered upon hearing this before immediately falling to her knees to accept the order. As such, Han Li could only stand up and follow her out of the hall. Thus Mu Qing and Xue Du were the only ones left in the building. Mu Qing looked on in the direction that Han Li had departed in, and the expression on her face suggested that she was in deep thought. Meanwhile, Xue Du remained completely silent beside as if he were a mute. "Xue Du, don't you want to ask me why I changed my mind?" Mu Qing suddenly asked. "My mistress naturally has her reasons. There's no need for my lowly self to state any questions." Xue Du replied with a respectful bow. Hehehe, you sure know how to talk. There's no reason for me to keep this a secret from you. I decided to change my mind naturally because I've found a more worthwhile use for him than using him as a blood sacrifice. Mu Qing giggled. "Could it be that you're referring to his divine devil-bane lightning mistress?" Xue Du asked as his heart stirred slightly. "Hey, it's exactly because of that. Premium blood sacrifices are hard to find, but I can always gather more given some time. However, with this divine lightning to assist me, the probability of success for our grand scheme will be increased by at least 10%. Do I need to elaborate on which one is more important?" Mu Qing explained.